Hello, and welcome to this third installment of translating Julius Caesar's account of the Battle of Pharsalus in Book 3 of his Civil War. Today, looking at section 85. In this section, Caesar has basically given up on the idea that Pompey will fight a battle in the area, and he's about to head off when there is a surprise twist at the end. So, without further ado, let's get into the text. Pompeius, qui castra in colle habebat, ad infimas radices montis aciem instruebat, semper ut videbatur expectans si iniquis locis Caesar se subiceret. So, nice and easy, we start off with Pompeius in the nominative, so he's our subject, and we move straight into a relative clause. So we have the relative pronoun qui, nominative singular, agreeing with Pompeius. And we've got a main verb straight up, so Caesar's not throwing a bunch of ablative absolutes at us, not yet anyway. In the indicative, so we have the imperfect third person singular active of habere. So holding, in this case, is really all that means, and he's holding castra, which is the accusative plural of the word for camp. So he's holding his camps in colle. So preposition in with the ablative singular of the word for hill. He's holding his camps on the hill. It's really just a bit of description. It's not doing anything fancy. Um, yeah, purely just descriptive. Pompeius, who had his camp on the hill, ad infimas radices montis aciem instruebat. So we've met this verb before actually. In the perfect tense, instruxit. So this is imperfect again, third person singular active, indicative, and again, forming up aciem in the accusative singular. He's forming up his battle line. And he's doing this ad infimas radices montis. So we've got preposition ad with accusative plural. So we've got radices, which is the noun. So accusative plural. Really roots is what that means. In this context, it's the roots, it's partitive genitive of mountain. So the roots of the mountain, I've gone with slopes. Literally it means roots of the mountain though. And infimas is a superlative adjective qualifying radices, so it's feminine plural as well. The lowest. So if you think in English, we have infernal, referring to the lower world. It derives from this Latin sense. So it comes from inferus, which if you've read Harry Potter, you might be familiar with the inferi, which are dead bodies raised to do the bidding of an evil wizard. They are beings of the lower world, the dead, and it's derived from this Latin sense. So they would refer to like Hades as the lower world, and that's where the dead reside. In this case, though, it just means the lowest roots of the mountain, or the lowest slopes of the mountain, is where he's formed up his battle line. Semper, semper fi, semper fidelis, the full phrase. So it's adverb always. Ut, not really doing anything too fancy here. It's not a subordinating conjunction. We've got an imperfect verb following. It's really adverbial again, really as. Videbatur, which is indicative again, imperfect again, third person singular passive for the verb to see. So it really always, as it appeared, expectans. So we have a present participle in the nominative, singular, agreeing with Pompeius. English expect is closely related to this. Expecting, anticipating, awaiting, something along those lines. So always as it seemed, awaiting, and then we've got C. So this introduces a conditional clause, really if or whether. And we've got a verb in the subjunctive, subiceret, which we met last time in this exact form. So this is a imperfect third person singular subjunctive, active. This time, though, Caesar is the subject. So Pompey's awaiting, always it seemed, awaiting whether Caesar would form. Here, say is the reflexive pronoun in the accusative singular, referring back to Caesar. So he's awaiting to see really whether Caesar would form himself up below. So that's that sub part of the verb. Iniquus locus, ablative plural, locus like ground, but plural grounds. We'd translate that as singular though. Ablative of the physical place in which, and iniquus is an adjective agreeing with locus, like English iniquity, the opposite of equity. So unequal ground in the sense that it's really not favourable ground for Caesar. So I've translated that as unfavourable ground. Really, Pompey's just sort of testing whether Caesar's actually going to fight him in conditions which are just completely not suitable for Caesar. And, well, we'll find out whether Caesar took the bait or not. So the translation I have, Pompey, who was holding his camp on the hill, kept forming up his battle line toward the lowest slopes of the mountain, always, as it seemed, awaiting whether Caesar would form himself up below on the unfavourable ground. So I've kept the sort of continuous sense of the imperfect for holding and kept forming. Just in Latin, the imperfect really retains this sense. English, it needs a little bit of help just to properly convey that this is a repeated action that Pompey's carrying out. So we saw last time, Caesar was moving up his own battle line towards the hill on which Pompey was camped. And it seems while he's doing this, Pompey is also moving down the hill, but not quite far enough to engage Caesar's forces. They've got a kind of a game of chicken going on here, and neither of them has blinked. Or not yet. But as we saw last time as well, just with these last few regarding the cavalry, it's not just that they're forming up their main battle lines either above or below, depending on who's doing it. The cavalry is also fighting for advantageous position during this time as well. And probably not just advantageous position for a battle, but also to try and cut off each other's supplies. So that's where the Proelium Secundum that Caesar referred to last time, I think that's a part of that sort of skirmishing for position, skirmishing to secure or cut off supplies. So that's what seems to be going on here. There's an anecdote this reminds me of from the Social War, which took place about 40 odd years before this. When Marius was in command of the Roman forces, he was facing the Marsic generals, Silo. And the anecdote runs something like Silo and Marius have a kind of conference before the battle. And Silo says to Marius, "If you're such a great general, Gaius Marius, come out and fight me." And Marius's reply is, well, if you're such a great general, Silo, make me. And Marius won that battle. There's also a sense that this is what's going on here. I can imagine maybe Caesar writing up below and saying, if you're such a great general, Pompeius Magnus, come out and fight me. And Pompeius replying, well, you're such a great general, guy, Caesar. Make me. In any case, something like a game of chicken is going on there. And moving on. Caesar nulla ratione ad pugnam elici posse Pompeium existimans hunc sibi commodissimam belle rationem judicavit uti castra ex eo loco moveret semperque esset in itineribus. And okay, so we have Caesar again. We're just starting off with a subject in the nominative. So Caesar, yep. We got another participle. So this is present participle, participle nominative singular. So agreeing with Caesar. We met existimavit last time, so the perfect tense, third person singular active indicative. Judging really is what this means, or in this case, really concluding. As we'll see, this is Caesar not just purely making a judgment, but reaching a conclusion that nulla ratione. So we've got ratione, which we've also met before. This is in the ablative singular. So like rational plan, strategy in this context, and nulla agreeing with that. So as an adjective, like English null, really by no plan, by no stratagem, by no scheme, by no tactics even. Uh, and then we're actually an accusative and infinitive here. Pompeium, so that's the accusative singular of Pompeius. Posse is the present infinitive active of the verb to be able. And elici is the passive present infinitive, really meaning to be lured out or to be enticed. English illicit derives from this word, not illicit, that is a different word, illicit. To be lured out, to be, in this context, drawn down is what I've gone for, to be drawn out. So by no plan, would it be possible for Pompeius to be drawn out ad pugnam? So we've got preposition ad with the accusative singular, feminine. Pugnam, a fight, really, but since this is a war and not taking place in a pub, for battle is more suitable here. So Caesar's concluding really that by no means could Pompey be drawn out or drawn down for a battle. Hanc sibi commodissimam belli rationem judicavit. So here we have the verb for judging in the perfect tense, third person singular active indicative. He judged, so it's going back to Caesar. This, which is accusative singular feminine, that's the demonstrative pronoun. This, sibi reflexive pronoun, this is in the dative, third person singular, for him. Really verb to be understood. This for him would be commodissimam, so that's another superlative. That is in the accusative singular, so that's agreeing with rationem here. Really, that's another accusative and infinitive. It's just that the verb to be is understood. That would be in the infinitive here. Commodissimam rationem, the most appropriate plan. So commodissimum, yeah, appropriate, suitable, really the best plan. Belly, that's a partitive genitive. So that's the word for war. Literally the best plan of war, the most suitable plan of war, the most suitable strategy. And then we have Uti introducing a kind of it's a kind of consecutive clause, but it's really descriptive or explanatory. Um, I mean, so Uti here really, it's not so much so that as like to it, namely that. So all of this is about to be expanded upon. And so Uti, namely that, and we shall go to the verb. So it is in the subjunctive because it is a kind of consecutive clause. Moveret, so we've got the imperfect third person singular active. English move is pretty clear from that. It means the same thing here. He should move. Castra, that's the accusative plural again of camp. So camps, he should move camps. Ex eo loco. From eo loco, so we've got the singular ablative. So we meant plural here, locus. Loco is the singular. And we've got the demonstrative adjective agreeing with loco, actually functioning as an adjective from this place. So move camps, let's get out of here. Semper quae, so we have quae meaning and semper, again, always. Esset, that's the verb to be, third person singular active, imperfect subjunctive, and he should always be in itineribus. So we've got preposition in with the ablative plural of the word, really for journey or march. Um, he should always be on the move. He should always be marching, something along those lines. Basically, he's not going to keep in one place. He's going to strike camp and constantly keep on the move. You can sort of see actually English itinerary derives from the plural form of this noun. So iter is the singular, and then we have itineraries, itineraris, referring to the plural. That's where we get itinerary, like multiple journeys. So, Caesar has, well, here we go. Caesar, concluding that by no stratagem would it be possible for Pompey to be drawn down for a battle, judged this strategy most appropriate for himself, that he should move camp away from this place and always be on the move. So, Caesar's basically tested what Pompey's intentions are, as we saw from the last section. He's been lining his troops up for battle. Pompey's come out a little bit, but hasn't come down into the more favourable ground where Caesar wants to fight. And so Caesar has concluded, okay, Pompey doesn't want a battle here, or at least he doesn't want a battle on terms that I'm willing to engage with. So I'm going to hightail it out of here because Pompey's probably got a different strategy in mind in that case to sort of cut off all my supplies on me. So I'm not going to stay in one place. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to keep constantly on the move. And the reason Caesar wants to do this, he is about to explain. Haec spectans ut movendis castris puribusque adeundis locis commodiore frumentaria re uteretur, simulque in itinere, ut aliquam occasionem demicandi nancisceretur et insolitum ad laborem Pompeii exequitum quotidianis itineribus defatigaret. So, again, we start with a participle, going back to Caesar. So, as you can see too, this is quite a long sentence. So I've broken it up into two different parts. participle going back to Caesar. So we saw the compound of this above. So awaiting, really, spectans here, like present singular nominative, giving consideration to, giving thought to, is what the sense of it is here. And hike, we have the demonstrative pronoun again. This is accusative plural in the neuter, giving consideration to these things. You could say in English, giving consideration to the following, because that's exactly what Caesar's doing. He's about to list. These are all the things, all the reasons why I've made this decision. Um, and ut here, again, it is a kind of consecutive clause, but really just meaning that. In this case, it's not really a so that. And so he's giving consideration to. And we start with a gerundive, moendus. So we saw the verb up here, moeret, that was the imperfect subjunctive. We've got the gerundive ablative plural here. And that's agreeing with castris, which is ablative plural of camp. So the gerundive being passive, it's really by the camps being moved. So by moving camp, you can retain the passive sense of the Latin gerundive, or it's fairly common to translate that in an active sense as well, just to make it sound a little bit more natural in English. But either way, Moendus castris, so by moving camps, you could also retain the plural here, because again, the idea is he's constantly on the move, changing where he's pitching camp. So camps in the plural in modern English would really indicate that he's camping in different places, each night or every few nights or whatever. And quae, so and pluribus, so that's ablative plural, e pluribus unum, so many. Adeondis locus. So locus is the noun. We've met a few times here, really regions or places. Adeondis, pardon me, so that's the gerundive plural again of, really, this is the verb to be present. In the context, it's more like occupied or approached. But he's approaching it with his army, or he's approaching them with his army. So he's really occupying them. That's what I've gone with. So pluribus and adeundis both qualify locus. It's really and the many places being approached, or the many places being occupied. And we've got a main verb here, uterator. So it's like English use, but in this context, it's really securing again. So as we saw last time, re frumentaria preparata, possibly Caesar was being a bit optimistic. So uterator really meaning something similar. He could make use of, and that's in the subjunctive. It's third person singular active, deponent verb, so it looks passive. But make use of, and that's taking the ablative re frumentaria, so the grain, or the grain supply, really, in this context. And commodiore, that's adverbial in this case. So we met the superlative just before, commodissimum, commodiore, qualifying uterator more easily, something along those lines. He could more easily secure grain, is what he's saying. Which is an interesting statement. It's really, going back to what I was saying before, it's an indication that Caesar believed Pompey was trying to pin him down. and cut him off from supplies. And so Caesar's decided that the best strategy is not to stay still, but to keep moving. And the reasons for this, so one of them is he can take grain from the places that he's occupying, so in the actual cities around Greece, around Thessaly at this point. Uh, but also, so simulque, so we have que and simul, so English like simulation, simulacrum, which is really a Latin word, but survives into English, comes from this. It's really this is temporal and adverbial, really means at the same time in itinere. So we get preposition in, ablative singular of the word for journey or march. And again, he's really saying, and at the same time, be on the march, be constantly on the move. And then now we have another ut. This is ut acting as a subordinated conjunction, introducing a purpose clause. So really, in order that, and we have a verb in the subjunctive. So this is third person singular imperfect active. It's another deponent verb though, so it's got that passive form. Nankiskeretur, just to bring about, or to, in this case, create, to obtain. Aliquam occasionem. So aliquam is adjectival, agreeing, so it's feminine singular, agreeing with occasionem. Like English occasion is sort of related to this. You could even say, like, so really, aliquam means another, and occasion, yeah, you can go with another occasion, another, yeah, if you can come up with a better word. I'm pretty sure I did. I can't remember what I put now, but let's just go with another occasion. So he would create another occasion. Dimikanti. This is the gerund in the genitive. So it's another occasion of fighting, literally. In English, you might say for fighting or for battle. So that's one of his reasons for being on the move. But there's another, et. Yeah, let's go to the verb. Defatigaret. I had to slow down. I almost stumbled all over that. English fatigue, you can see from there. Subjunctive again, third person singular active. Yeah, basically meaning the same thing. To wear out, to tire out, to exhaust, to fatigue. Executum Pompey. The army, so that's accusative singular, it's direct object. Pompey, possessive genitive, so it's to tire out Pompey's army. Itineribus again, so that's our ablative plural. Quotidianus, adjective agreeing with itineribus, really meaning daily. I think we came across this in our first translation actually. Yeah, quotidianis contentianibus, the daily confrontations. Here it's ablative of means again, it's by daily marches. So he wants to wear Pompey's army out by daily marches. And really, he thinks he can do this because the army is insolitum. It's a participle. It's in the same case. It is somewhat agreeing with executum, but it's used more as a predicate here. It's more like the army of Pompey, the word meaning unaccustomed. It's really unaccustomed as it was unaccustomed. It's not an unaccustomed army. I mean, in some sense it is, but grammatically it's not. Ad laborem. You've got preposition ad with the accusative. Labor's pretty clear from that. though I insist that the word labour should have a U in it, but whatever. Accusative singular, labour, to really hear exertion. So Caesar's basically saying Pompey's army not really accustomed to it, exertion in the way that my army is, because we did this for 10 years in Gaul. Um, Even at the start of the Civil War, we've been pushing it pretty hard. We did this at Dyrrhachium. We sort of had to cover a lot more mileage with our fortifications. We almost beat Pompey, but not quite. So these are things that Pompey's army not exactly, yeah, basically won't be able to keep up, but he does want a battle as well. So really what he wants is for Pompey's army to be tired out, but within range of Caesar, so that he can then engage them on a battle basically on his own terms with them exhausted from trying to keep up. And so what I've got here, giving consideration to these things, and then I've put a colon there just to indicate that it's a list that's following, that by moving camps, as well as in the many different places that he occupied, he would secure the grain more easily, or the grain supply more easily, rather, and at the same time be on the move, so that he would wear out Pompey's army by daily marches, unaccustomed as it was to exertion, and create another opportunity for a battle. So I've changed the order in which these ideas appear, just to make it clearer uh, what Caesar's getting at. That he wants to wear out Pompey's army, but it's so that when it comes to battle, they're going to be exhausted, and he's going to increase his own chances of victory. Um, so as I was saying, he doesn't want to be completely out of range. He just wants to make them tired. But in a way, just missing Caesar's army. He's kind of teasing them in a sense. So I've changed the order there just for that reason. Um, yeah, I think all of that is fairly straightforward. Um, there is an argument that Pompey's army probably wasn't as feeble as Caesar is suggesting, with regards to labor, but it may be. I think there's two things that Caesar's considering when he says that. One is that Pompey's army hadn't, as I said, they hadn't been doing this for 10 years, as Caesar's army had. They'd had some experience recently at Dyrrhachium, and marching from Dyrrhachium to Pharsalus, but it's not a habit, in the sense that Caesar's army has developed a habit. Second one is that a large portion of Pompey's army was allied soldiers, from the various sort of kingdoms and city-states and so on from the eastern regions of Roman influence, and so they do not have the same tradition of exertion, that the legionaries do, and certainly not Caesar's legionaries. Um, so I think those are the two reasons why Caesar thinks Pompey's army is unaccustomed to exertion. Right, but there we go. So this is how Caesar uh, deals with the fact that Pompey's not going to come out and play. So after testing Pompey, he's realized, okay, or he seems to think that he's realized, okay, I'm not going to get a battle here, so I need to keep constantly on the move. Also, an indication of the weakness of Caesar's position. As I noted earlier, he was probably being a bit optimistic, in the last section when he said that he'd secured the grain supply. Um, that was a very temporary state of affairs, it seems, because he realizes now, okay, well, if Pompey's in the neighborhood with a larger army, I have to keep constantly on the move, um, and not be a static target. And that's the only way I'm going to keep my soldiers fed. Okay. And well, implicit in that is Pompey's strategy was to Caesar's mind to cut off his supplies rather than fight a battle. And so moving on. His constitutis rebus signo iam profectionis dato tabernaculesque detensis animum adversum est Paulo ante extra quotidianem consuetudinem longius avallo esse aciem Pompei progressam ut non in equo loco posse dimicari videretur. So Caesar's sort of restrained himself until now with the ablative absolutes, but now he's sort of making up for previous sections' lack of them. So we start off with a nice ablative absolute here. His rebus constitutis. So rebus is the ablative plural of res, like matter, a very flexible word. In this case, it probably works just to say matters. That's the demonstrative pronoun agreeing with rebus. So really these matters constitutis. So that's our perfect participle. In English, we have constitution. Um, it's a settlement, really. The document is a kind of political settlement for how the government should work. And so Caesar's saying these matters have been settled, these matters concluded, or these matters having been concluded. And then we've got another ablative absolute, signo dato. The signal, it's pretty clear from that, it's ablative singular. Dato is our participle here, so that's in the perfect tense again. The verb to give, but passive since it's the perfect participle. So the signal having been given, perfectionis, it's genitive singular, of departure. And we have iam here, which is just an adverb of time, just meaning already. So signal of departure having already been given, made que, and tabernaculus. So you might be familiar with that term from the Bible. A tabernacle, it just derives from the Latin word for tent. So tabernaculus is the ablative plural tense, detensis. So English tense sort of comes from this. It's something, in Latin, it means something stretched taut. And detensis, like to detense something, is to de-stretch, unstretch. And so really to furl up, to roll up, to pack up the tense. So that's in the perfect ablative plural, agreeing with tabernaculus. So really, and the tense being packed up. So basically, soldiers are all ready to go. Caesar's decided, okay, we're getting out of here. And the signal's already been given. They're about to go when? Animum adversum est. This is a really weird phrase to try and translate properly. So animum, you probably recognize from animus, animum, like the mind, the spirit, the soul. Morale was how I translated it last time. It does, the literal phrase does mean that here. So this is a passive perfect. So adversum's agreeing with animal. It's really like the mind being directed towards, which is going to sound really weird if you put that in English. It just means that he perceived, or it was perceived, might be a better way of putting it in English, just to retain the passive sense of the verb. Caesar's basically saying what happened was someone like one of his scouts has reported to him. That's all that means, but it's one of those weird phrases in Latin that just that's the way they thought about things. Um, so really, it was perceived. Um, Palo ante. So we've got the adverb ante. So before Paolo, nice guy, I met him last time. Ablative singular again, and meaning the same thing. Really, before by a little or a little earlier. Extra, which we have in English, and really the Latin sense of that is beyond. Can also, from that sense of being beyond, be sort of in contrast to a usual behavior, which is what is basically another way of translating this. It's really beyond consuetudinem, which is habit in the accusative singular, so that's going to be our direct object. Quotidianum, the adjective, accusative singular agreeing with consuetudinem. We've met that in the plural before, meaning daily again. So we translate it adverbally. So further, really further than the daily habit. And this adversum est is introducing accusative and infinitive as well, just to make that more interesting. So really beyond the daily habit, aciem Pompei. So we have the word for line, battle line in the accusative singular, Pompei possessive genitive, so Pompey's line. Progressem esse, and that's our infinitive. So this is a perfect infinitive. The form is passive, but it's a deponent verb. Sort of see the English progress there. So really, Pompey's line had advanced further than usual, further than their daily habit. Pardon me, or beyond their daily habit. Longius, so it's comparative. We met this last time as well. So like English long, but here again further. Awallo. So preposition up with the ablative meaning from. This is ablative singular. It's not valley in the way we'd normally think of it in English. It's really referring to the defensive works of Pompey's camp, the trench or the fosse. So it's really from the defences. Pompey's line had advanced further than usual, and this has just been picked up by Caesar. And put here is actually introducing a consecutive clause so that videretur, so we've got the subjunctive, this is third person singular passive, the verb is see, so we've met this a few times. Again, it seemed or it appeared, or so that it would appear. Posse, so we got that infinitive of to be able, so that's present. Infinitive active. To be able, dimicare. We've actually got this in the passive infinitive. To be fought. So it can be referring to the battle or Pompey's army. Usually it's thought of as referring to the battle. It's used impersonally in any case. Non iniquo loco. So we've got loco, so it's singular. This is actually the singular version of what we met before. Iniquis locis is the ablative plural of unfavorable ground, and iniquo loco is just the ablative singular, meaning the same thing. But it's qualified by non. So it's one of these Latin double negatives. The not unfavorable ground, or on the not unfavorable ground. Let's say on equal ground, really. Tell me, or even on equal terms. Might be stretching it a bit, but on equal ground is what Caesar means here. So that it appeared to be possible that the battle be fought on equal ground, on even ground. Okay, and so what I've got for that, these matters having been decided, another one. When the tents had been packed and the signal for departure already given, just a moment before marching out, it was noticed that Pompey's line had advanced from the defences further than usual, so that it appeared it could be fought on equal ground. So I've made it refer back to Pompey's army here. Dimikari, as I said, could refer to the battle, could refer to the army. It's used impersonally. Um, I've taken the view that it refers to the army, but often it's in English translation, it's taken to refer to the battle. Further than usual is sort of what I've taken, extra quotidianum consuetudinem. Literally, yeah, like further than daily habit. Let's see, from the defenses, so that's Awello. Just a moment before is what I've taken Paolo ante to mean. It's before by a little, um, or really just a moment before marching out. So I've added marching out just to be absolutely clear at what moment it was that this perception took place. I feel like in the Latin it's just a little bit vague. What Caesar's saying here, like it's Paolo ante, but to what? It's not signo dato. Otherwise they wouldn't have given the signal. Perhaps from packing up the tents, maybe, but it's not entirely clear. So I've just put before marching out for a bit of context in English. It's not part of the text, but it just makes it a little bit clearer at what point that took place. And yeah, decided for constitutus. So settled, decided. There's a few different verbs you'd go with there, just to get that sense of a decision having been reached, which could be another way of translating that, not quite literally, but retaining the sense of it. In any case, so Pompey's given Caesar a bit of a surprise. So up to this point, Caesar is convinced that Pompey is not going to fight a battle in this area. They've been having this game of chicken go on for some time now. Caesar marches his army up, Pompey marches his army down, neither of them wanting to engage on ground they consider either unfavorable to themselves, or in the case of Pompey, ground that he considers not unfavorable to Caesar. And so Caesar has become convinced that Pompey doesn't want a battle there, that he's got some other strategy in mind. And then Pompey comes out, his army comes out, and it actually is deploying for battle in the area. It's sort of taking the risk that it's going to fight on fairly even ground. And so we get to the penultimate sentence. Tunc Caesar apud suos, cum iam esset agman in portis. And now I'm going to have to get my best Caesar voice on. Differendum est, inquit, iter in praesentia nobis et de provelio cogitandum, sicut semper de poboscimus, animo sumus ad dimicandum parati, non facile occasionem postea reperiemus. Caesar's addressed his men here. So, tunc, really thereupon, or and then, Caesar in the nominative, apud suos. So we've got this apud preposition before with the accusative plural in this case. of the possessive adjective, really, and masculine plural. So it's Caesar before his own men. And then we have cum. So here, it's with the subjunctive, it's really concessive in this case. Kind of saying even though or although. Here, already. Agman. So this is actually in the nominative. This is the nominative singular for column, like a army column of troops. Esset, that's our imperfect subjunctive, third person singular active of the verb to be. In portis, preposition in with the ablative plural of the word for door, or really gate here. It's the camp gates. So even though the column was already not quite at the gates, it's more through the gates. So they're basically the signal for departure's already been given, bags are packed, etc. Instead of giving the harangue in the camp before everyone sets out, Caesar's just kind of had to improvise here. And so as his army's marching out of the camp gates, gives a quick little speech here. And what he says, so he starts with a gerundive of necessity. Differendum est. Um, this is actually related. Think more English defer, as in to put something off. That's what is meant here. It must be put off. Inquit. He says, and note this is present. This is a present indicative. Third person singular active. Bit of a weird verb. I think the original sense of it. I was looking at this the other day. The etymology of it. It's probably a subjunctive verb originally. The first person singular is inquam, which is a subjunctive form. In any case, he says, so Caesar has, like the writer, has changed into present tense now. So it must be put off, he says, or really, iter, the march must be put off. So differendum is agreeing with iter. The march must be put off in presentia. So in preposition with the ablative singular, English present, as in both, not a gift. It is not that. To be present or in the present moment is really what is meant here. So the journey must be put off for the moment, for the present, nobis, by us. If you thought this was an ablative plural of the personal pronoun first person, that would be understandable but incorrect. It's actually in the dative. It's not that you would notice with this form, but with the gerundive, these gerundival constructions, it's a dative of agent rather than an ablative expressing agent. It's one of those scenarios where the rules of it's like the rules of Latin, they apply until they don't. And that's but it's kind of drawing the curtain away slowly over time as you get through more advanced Latin. It's like the ablative always means agent. And that's the case of the agent by which something is done until you do gerundival constructions, and then it's not, and then it's the dative. One way to think about that is it's the dative for whom the necessity exists. So the journey must be put off by us, or really for us, the obligation exists to put off the journey. I would not suggest translating it that way. That's just a way of trying to remember that with these gerundival constructions, the dative expresses agent. So that was a bit of a rant. So for the present, we have to put off the journey and de proelio cogitandum. So with regards to, so it's de with the ablative singular of the word for battle. So really, with regards to battle, cogitandum, it's another gerundive. It's used impersonally, and really thought must be given to battle, something along those lines. Um, Again, with these gerundival constructions, it can be a bit weird being too literal in your translation. Really, our thoughts must be directed towards battle. That's what I've gone for, just to capture the sense a little more intelligibly for modern English. Sicut, just as, semper, always, de popis. I knew I was going to stuff that up at some point. De poposcimus. Um, that is. That is a perfect tense. First person plural. Okay, so it's perfect active indicative. Really, as we just as always we have required or demanded, wished, something along those lines. Really, just as we have always wished. Animo, so that's ablative, ablative in which, so in spirit. Sumus, it's present verb to be in the indicative, first person plural. So in spirit, we are parati, then we have perfect participle. Um, this is going with sumus. It's in the plural. We are prepared ad demicandum, another gerundival construction. It's a gerund, though, not a gerundive. I mean, ad expressing purpose here. Uh, really for the sake of fighting, or for fighting, really. So in spirit, we are prepared for fighting. Reperiemos, so that's first person plural future indicative, active. So really, we shall find, but qualified by non. So we shall not find. Facile, that's an adverb. Something like in English, we still have facile. Easily, we shall not easily find. Occasionem, so once again in the accusative, that's our direct object. Occasion, posterior, it's another adverb, later. So we shall not easily find an occasion later. So he's really saying, look, guys, the battle's upon us. We have to put off our journey. This is what we've always planned for, though. This is what we've always wanted, and we're not going to find another chance so easily. So let's get our minds focused on the task at hand. And so, what I have here, thereupon, Caesar addresses his men. So I've gone for the present tense just to retain what Caesar's written. Thereupon Caesar addresses his men, though the column was already through the gates. We must put off the march for the present, and direct our thoughts now to battle, just as we have always wished. In spirit, we are ready for fighting. We shall not easily find another chance later. So it's interesting. This has caught Caesar completely by surprise, but never mind. He's just going to give an impromptu speech. He's not having the usual chance to give a proper harangue with like on a raised dais and with all the proper ceremonial and little bit of call and response and that sort of thing. He just has to give a quick speech, say, "Okay, battle's here, let's go." And with the final sentence, short and sweet. Confestimque expeditas copias educit. So, and confessed so, and without delay, and immediately. Educit. So we've met this before. This is the present tense, though, third person singular active. So leads, but leads away from. And so he leads out. Expeditas copias. So copias is the noun. feminine plural in the accusative. There's forces, and expeditas is actually a participle, agreeing with Copias. Expeditas is unencumbered. So I mentioned last time that the expeditos, where are they? Here, expeditos, adolescentes atque expeditos. The expeditos here are light armored troops, but I spoke about it there that when battle is expected, everyone is expeditos, or the forces are expeditas, since forces is feminine. So that's where the distinction needs to be made, and you need to look at the context of, okay, well, what's actually going on to make people unencumbered in this scenario? Is it because if they're getting prepared for battle, as they are here, then everyone is unencumbered, and so it's not going to refer just to light troops. It's referring to everybody. Whereas in a different scenario, if battle is not imminent, then it probably is just referring to troops who are more lightly armored. But so everyone had their tents packed up, bags are packed, all of the baggage is sort of put on the mules. Um, but then they've had to quickly adjust to the fact that battle is upon them. And so it seems like Caesar's given a quick speech. Everyone's got their things sorted out, maybe just chucked them back in a big heap somewhere within their own camp. They don't have a whole lot of time. And he leads his troops out. And so he finishes this section on this cliffhanger. And without delay, he leads out his forces ready for action. Pardon me. So again, present tense. It's something Caesar does a little bit in the Civil War. It seems to happen a lot in the Gallic Wars as well. In the books, the Gallic Wars books, he'll just switch to present tense. It's a way of really emphasizing and generating excitement in the action, sort of literally putting you right in the moment. So Caesar addresses his men. It's a present moment now, putting the reader there. So interesting stylistic choice. And there we have it. So after all um, this game of chicken between them and Caesar trying to provoke Pompey into a battle, and it doesn't work. And then he decides that Pompey doesn't want a battle. And then it turns out Pompey does want a battle. And so Caesar is the one caught off guard. It makes me wonder whether maybe this was Pompey's intention, knowing that Caesar was going to be keen on a battle when they first arrived at Pharsalus. And so he doesn't, fight on Caesar's terms. He waits for Caesar to put into effect some other plan and then try and catch him off guard. That's what it seems to me. There's a few different uh, ideas on why exactly it is that Pompey gave battle here. And considering the results, some of them tend towards saying that Pompey didn't actually want a battle. I'm not totally convinced of that. Everything, even at this point, everything seems to indicate that Pompey's got all of the conditions set for victory, and even if he fights on equal ground, um, he's got the army at his disposal to achieve this victory. And we'll see that in the next section, or at least we'll see what it is that Caesar thinks Pompey was planning, and why it is he thought he would be able to achieve victory in the next section. So that's it for section 85. Hopefully that was an interesting discussion, reasonably enjoyable, and somewhat educational. As I hope I've made clear throughout, this is not definitive. It's just my own translation and really the point is just to go through a translation exercise and and get a better understanding of the battle itself, what led up to it, the engagement, and then what happened afterwards. So, with all that being said, I will be back when I'm ready for Section 86. So, thanks for tuning in. Stay safe, take care, and toodle pip.